Hello and welcome to Tapping Tips Tuesday. I'm continuing on from the theme of working with the top blocks that can stop us from speaking with a fearless voice and showing up as we really want to do. So today I'm going to work on the fear of inadequacy. And that can really stop us in our tracks where we are comparing ourselves, or we're not feeling as good enough, or anything that shows up to confirm I'm inadequate. And so in using emotional freedom techniques, what we're trying to do is understand events and triggers and where does this come from? What is the emotion that shows up in those times, if they're experiences that we've had, or even thinking about situations we're going into. And what we're trying to do is allow for our stress response in our body to be calmed through the use of emotional freedom techniques. And then what that's going to enable us to do is when we are put into those situations, or we think about previous times, we don't get that stress response happening in our body. So if I can give you an example of how we might work with the fear of inadequacy, it could be going into a new environment, whether it be maybe a business networking environment or a social situation, or doing something again on Facebook, Instagram, where we are showing up and using our voice and we're wanting to do something that we're really passionate about, but we start to have some negative thoughts, or we're looking around and observing, and then we're comparing. And so what that can do is actually stop us, and we start to question, what are we actually doing? And then we're not then going to do what we really want to do. So for the example of going to, let's say, a business networking event. Now, whenever I'm doing the tapping tips, what I'd love for you to do is write down your own situation, own scenario, whether it be a recent time where you did something and you felt inadequate, or it could be a future event that you're going to go to. So I want you to write it down, what it was. So who was there, what was happening, when did it happen, what, you know, the actual snapshot of that moment in time, if it was a past event. And then thinking about a future one, it's the same thing. Who might be there? What will be happening? What might take place? And so our brain doesn't know the difference between past and future. The body is still going to go into a response if it's a negative situation that we're creating or have experienced. So I'm going to do a future event, and so that's going to be going into a business networking event, and I might be thinking, oh, they're all so much more successful. They've got greater businesses. They're doing something different to what I'm doing. And, you know, I could have that feeling of inadequacy. So when I think about that potential situation, I notice what is happening within my body. What is the emotion that is showing up for me when I think about that? So you might be doing something from the past, or you might be doing something in the future. So notice the emotion in the here and now. Sad, anxious, worried, nervous, fear, apprehension, you name it. It could be any emotion that's showing up for you. I want you to rate it 0 to 10. And the reason we're rating it is so that you know, when we're doing the rounds of tapping, is it actually working? Am I focused in on the right thing? Is that emotion being reduced through the tapping? If it's not, then we can shift it up, and I'll talk that through once we've done a round. And then you go, am I actually feeling that emotion anywhere in my body? Do I notice it in my head? Do I notice it in my chest? Do I notice it in my solar plexus? Do I notice it in my stomach? Or am I feeling it in my hands? Am I feeling it in my legs? Just take a moment to tune into your body. And so here's what we're going to do. So I want you to write down yours, turn it over, and then I want you to use my words, because there is a concept called borrowing benefits. So even though what I'm saying might not be what you've written down, the conscious will go bypass to the unconscious to work on what needs to happen. So your conscious mind's going, well, that's not what I'm talking about. But given that you've just written, there you go, written down what is relevant for you, by turning it over and you set the intention, the unconscious knows what it needs to work on. Okay, so here we go. So tapping on the side of the hand, and I'm going to use the future event. So even though I feel anxious and I feel it in my chest, just thinking about going to that business networking event on Wednesday, they're all going to be so much better and more successful than I am. And I might feel inadequate. I deeply and completely accept myself. And even though I'm feeling anxious in my chest, thinking about going to that business networking event on Wednesday, I bet they're all so much more successful and better businesses than I have. And I might feel inadequate. I deeply and completely accept myself. And even though I'm feeling anxious in my chest, just thinking about going to that business networking event on Wednesday, they could be so much more successful and have better businesses than mine. And I might feel inadequate. I can still deeply and completely accept myself. So we state it 3 times, whether it's the future or the past event. We say what the emotion is, where it is in our body, but even though that's still happening, we can still accept ourselves. And then we go to the top of the head. That's the first point, and we're just repeating the emotion. Feeling anxious. Start of the eyebrow, feeling anxious. Start of the eye, feeling anxious in my chest. Under the eye, feeling anxious in my chest. Under the nose, feeling anxious. Under the lip, feeling anxious. Collarbone, feeling anxious. Under the arm, feeling anxious. So then I just come back to the side of the hand and I think, okay, thinking about that event on Wednesday. Now, here's the thing. I actually don't have a business networking event coming up on Wednesday, but I noticed even just creating that scenario, I did have some anxious feelings. There you go. And so having done that round, I don't feel it anymore. But that's not to say if that was a real event coming up, I could have done a round and the anxious feeling could still be there. It may have gone from a 6 down to a 3. So what I'm going to do is say that same thing. Or is there someone in particular that I'm thinking about who I know is going to be at that event? So you actually name them, seeing them and knowing that they are more successful, thinking that they are more successful, thinking something about them. So get really specific. And the same goes for an experience that you've recently had. Call it out, exactly what it was or who was there or what was said that made you feel inadequate. And so in this moment, what is that emotion that you're dealing with? So had I done that round or having done that round, am I still feeling anxious? No, I'm not. Or I could be feeling another emotion, scared, nervous, fear. Then I'm just going to state that emotion. Am I noticing it anywhere in my body? So the same process, rate it 0 to 10, the emotion. And then is it focusing in on that Wednesday business networking meeting? So we're just going to repeat that. And we just go through those layers until we get down to a 2 or below, ideally a 0, to then go, okay, how am I feeling about going to that event? Well, I'm excited. This is a great opportunity to network, to show up, to share my business, to start to make awesome connections, to do what I really want to be doing. And if it was a past event, well, how do I actually feel about that now? Well, you know what? They're actually a really nice person. I noticed they were actually being really nice to me. They weren't judging me. I was judging myself. And so what happens is when we allow for the body to calm and to regulate and to neutralize that emotion, we can see things very differently. We can release the negative charge and the disruption in our energy system. So then we can do what we want, when we want, how we want to do it. It allows for us to really show up doing, being, experiencing what we want. So I hope this has been useful. I'm going to continue doing the blocks just to show you how we work with it. Now, do I think that that block of feeling inadequate or fear of being inadequate has gone? Possibly not, but we just use a systematic process of future events, past events that are actually supporting that fear of inadequacy. It's just a process, but you're not going to have to be tapping for the rest of your life just on that one thing. It might then highlight something else. But when we have it in our conscious awareness, when we bring it into our awareness, we can do something with it. But where if you're pushing down, we can't do anything with it. And it's just going to keep smacking us in the face and stopping us from really being and doing and experiencing what we want. So join me next week. I hope this has been really helpful. If you want to know more, reach out. My website is www.katiewalkereft, or you can contact me on email, hello@katiewalkereft.com. Thank you for joining me. Take care.